Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to lesson 9.4. Today we're learning about comparing fractions. Now, this could be fractions with the same numerator, different numerators, and different denominators. So we're using all the skills we've learned so far in chapter 9 for this lesson. So let's dive right on in. Luca and Anne are eating the same size small pizzas. One plate has 3/4 of Luca's cheese pizza, and another plate has 5/6 of Anna's mushroom pizza. Whose plate has more pizza? Notice these fractions, different numerators and different denominators. So over here it says, circle the numbers you need to compare. How many pieces make up each whole pizza? Well, we know that the cheese pizza, the whole is 4, right? That's how many total pieces. So the cheese pizza has 4, and then mushroom is the next one. And that one is 6, right? That's what makes up the whole. 4 pieces to the whole of cheese and 6 pieces to the whole of mushroom pizza. So we are going to be comparing the fractions 3/4 and 5/6. And here's what we're going to use, the strategy. It's called the missing piece strategy. You can compare fractions by comparing pieces missing from the whole. So first we're going to shade 3/4 of Luca's pizza. And then we are going to shade 5/6 of Anne's pizza. 2, 3. Now I want you to look at these two. And I want you to look at what's left over. What is the missing piece? So here's this one. I'm going to outline that really clearly. And then here is this one. Now let me ask you this. First of all, they're the same size pizza, correct? Same size, however, the size of the slices is different. This one's cut into 4, this one's cut into 6. Now, if I wanted to ask you, which pizza has the bigger piece left over? I would say it's this one. Anne has a smaller piece left over, and that means if you have less left over, you actually ate more. Remember, less is more. So, looking at that, since 1/6 is less than 1/4, a smaller piece is missing from Anne's pizza. If a smaller piece is missing from Anne's pizza, she must have had more pizza, right? So blank plate has more pizza. That's going to be Anne's. Right? Okay, moving on. Morgan ran 2/3 of a mile. Alexa ran 1/3 of the mile. Who ran farther? So we're comparing these two fractions. Now, what we're doing here is we have the same denominator. And remember, this is going back a few lessons. When the denominator is the same, you look at the numerator. And the numerator that is greater is the greater fraction. So it gave us the sign, so we need to write in our numbers. So that means that Morgan ran farther. That's a tricky part about fractions. There's a lot of rules, okay? Now this one is using the same denominator strategy. When the denominators are the same, you can compare only the number of pieces or the numerator. And because 2/3, 2 out of 3, is greater than 1 out of 3, right? Okay. Ms. Davis is making a fruit salad with 3/4 pounds of cherries and 3/8 of a pound of strawberries. So let me circle my fractions. Which weighs less, the cherries or the strawberries. So we're looking for the one that is less. We're comparing these two fractions, and we're going to use the same numerator strategy which we used yesterday. When the numerators are the same, look at the denominators to compare the size of the pieces. Think, 1/8 is smaller than 1/4 because there are more pieces, right? So yesterday, remember, these are unit fractions, all right, one piece of that. So because an 1/8 is going to be a smaller piece than a 1/4, right? The sizes of those pieces are going to be a lot smaller. You have to cut them up more times. So because of that, 3/8 is less than 3/4. And so the strawberries weigh less. All right, now we're going to compare the fractions 7/8 and 5/6. And we're going to think, what is missing from each whole? We'll look at the space here and look at the space here. Now, I noticeably can see that there is more space left than here. And so that would mean that more is taken up here, right? If it was pizza, more would have been eaten if there's less left over. So when we're writing that out, we're going to say that 7/8 is greater than 5/6. And the reason is it's greater because think of it as pizza for a second. It's greater because more was consumed if there's less left over. Okay? If there's more left over, then this is actually less than the amount over here. All right, so now we are going to be doing a few examples of this. Sip of coffee, always right there. Okay. So compare, write less than, greater than, or equal to, and then write the strategy you used, which we're gonna go over the strategy. So we're comparing 1/2 and 2/3. So let me just draw that out really quick. I'm gonna draw it using circles. Here's 1/2, and here's 2/3. Now, looking at these two pictures, which one has less left over? Which missing piece is smaller? This one, right? Because more was shaded in on this fraction than this one. And so what that means is that 2/3 is greater than. Okay, and I use the missing piece strategy. Okay, I looked at the missing piece. This is the missing piece here. This is the missing piece here. And I asked myself, okay, which one has less of a missing piece? Whatever has less means more was shaded in, right? It's almost like opposite. Okay, I like this one because I have the same denominator. That's going to be my strategy. Oops. Okay, that's my strategy, same denominator. If the denominators are the same, you just look at the numerator, and the one that's greater is greater. Now, again, if you had circles here, and you split them each into 4 pieces, and one had, obviously those could be shaded a lot better, right? More is shaded over here. So 3/4 is greater than 2/4. All right. Look at this, same numerator. So that's going to be my strategy. Okay, now when you have the same numerator, what you want to think is the bottom number, okay? Remember, check the bottom, less is more. So 3/6, you're actually splitting this into less pieces, therefore the pieces themselves are going to be bigger. So 3/6 is greater than 3/8, or 3/8 is less than 3/6. And this is yesterday's lesson, right? Same numerator, check out the denominators, the one that's less is more. And again, if I was to draw out a picture of these fractions, it would be bigger pieces if it was split into only 6 rather than 8. All right, number 5, I have a different numerator and a different denominator. So I'm going to use the missing piece strategy. When both are different, that's the go-to strategy. So again, say I have the same size circle. This is really small. And one's cut into 4, and then one is cut into 8. Remember, your shapes have to be the same size to begin with because we're using fractions equal parts. So this one has 3 out of 4 shaded in. And this one's going to have 7 out of 8 pieces shaded in. So what I want you to do is look at the missing piece in each one. Here's this one. Look at the size of that one. And then look at the size of this one. Which missing piece is smaller? Over here. The one that's smaller is actually the greater fraction. And the reason for that is because more was shaded in if less is left over. Alrighty. Some more examples here. Just doing the same thing. Okay, 1/2 is less than, greater than, or equal to 2/2, or that's equivalent to a whole. So we have the same denominator, so look at the numerator, the greater one. The greater numerator means the greater fraction. Again, this is 1 whole, right? All of it's shaded in, only half is shaded in on that one. And the strategy is same denominator. One-third to 1/4. Okay, so I have the same numerator, not the same denominator. So let me write same numerator, that's my strategy. Remember, when your numerators are the same, check out the denominators, less is more. 1/3 is greater than 1/4. You're going to have bigger pieces if it's only split into 3 rather than 4. All right, different everything, different numerators, different denominators, so I'm going to use the missing piece strategy. Right, are you getting the hang of that? If you have different numerators and different denominators, you're going to use this strategy, missing piece. So let's say I have a shape, and that shape is cut into, probably should do, because this is going to be hard. Okay, 3. And this one I'm going to do like that. So 2/3 of it is shaded in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5 out of 6 is shaded in there. So look at the missing piece, everyone. This one has a smaller missing piece than this one, meaning more was shaded in. So 5/6 is greater, okay? The one with the smaller piece left over is the greater fraction. All right, and again, I have the same numerator, so that's going to be my strategy. Same numerator, check out the denominator. The one that's less is more, so 4/2 is greater than 4/6. Okay. Name a fraction that is less than or greater than the given fraction and draw to justify your answer. So I need to do a fraction that is less than 5/6, so I'm going to do 2/6, right? Okay, now let me draw. Oh gosh, I need to be better at drawing circles. Okay, split into, each of these are split into 6 pieces. One has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shaded in, and one only has 2 shaded in. All right, clearly 2/6 is less than. Less is shaded in. All right, one that is greater than 3/8, well, I'm gonna do 7/8 is greater than that. And you could do fraction strips instead of circles if you want. 1, 2, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oopsies. Ah. Okay, so 3/8, 1, 2, 3, and 7/8. Okay, so clearly that one's greater, it has more shaded in. Number 12. Luke, Seth, and Anja have empty glasses. Mr. Gable pours 3/6 of a cup of orange juice in Seth's glass. So Seth, I'm going to label my lead. Seth has 3/6, which is also a half. Then he pours 1/6 of a cup of orange juice in Luke's glass, so he has 1/6. And then 2/6 of a cup of orange juice in Anja's glass, so that's 2/6. So looking at these fractions, they all have the same denominator, so I can just compare the numerators, and the one that is the greatest is Seth's. Seth gets the most. And you can look at it and say, okay, Seth gets a whole half of a glass, right? 3/6 is the same thing as half. 3 is half of 6. So he has a half of a cup, and they clearly do not. So he definitely gets the most. All right, what's the error? Something's wrong. After we read, we need to figure it out. Jack says that 5/8 is greater than 5/6 because the denominator 8 is greater than the denominator 6. What is his error? Okay, so 5/6 we're comparing to 5/8. And he said, because this denominator is bigger, the fraction's bigger. But Jack's wrong because if we have the same numerator, remember, check out the denominator, less is more. Right, everyone? You're splitting it into less pieces, so the sizes of the pieces are bigger. I'm going to say because less is more. And then I'm going to say the sizes of the pieces in 5/6 are actually bigger, actually larger than 5/8. All right, last page. Tracy is making a blueberry muffin, or is making blueberry muffins. She uses 4/4 of a cup of honey and 4/2 cups of flour. Does Tracy use more honey or more flour? So first we need to figure out, what do we need to know? Well, we need to know how the fraction 4/4 compares to the fraction 4/5.